Hello, I'm Esther Gido-Ewart. It's Tuesday, April 26th. This is Africa 54.
Hunger is soaring across Burkina Faso. 3.5 billion people don't have enough food to eat, and 630,000 people may be on the brink of starvation. Researchers use an evolving monitoring system to track signs of coronavirus in sewage, which could forecast COVID infections. Elon Musk strikes a multi-billion-dollar deal to entirely own social media giant Twitter. These stories and much more coming up on today's Africa 54.
Hunger is soaring across Burkina Faso, the war-weakened West African nation, as a result of increasing violence linked to the terrorist groups Al-Qaeda and Islamic State. The groups have killed thousands and displaced millions while preventing people from farming. Some 3.5 million people don't have enough to eat. VOA's Heidi Adams has more.
This malnourished baby is just one of dozens of hungry children here at a hospital on the outskirts of the capital, Ouagadougou, where people face acute hunger. Clarice Nikiema, head of the nutrition unit at the hospital, says many displaced people are not getting an adequate diet.
Due to
the situation in Burkina, the security situation, we have lots of displaced people who come impoverished to the center. They are deeply impoverished and can't feed their families, so children become malnourished, and to provide varied and balanced meals for the children. Therefore, there are more signs of malnutrition among the displaced people.
At the hospital in Ouagadougou, the number of severely malnourished children arriving at the ward has doubled from 2 years ago. Nikiema says there isn't enough space or staff to care for them. Seated on a hospital bed, 30-year-old Martine Ruamba plays with her 10-month-old daughter, who she's been struggling to feed since birth. Her mother doesn't produce sufficient breast milk. Ruamba has been dealing with hunger since fleeing her village in northern Burkina Faso last year, when jihadists started killing people there.
We left Dablo for Ouagadougou because of the fighting. The jihadis came to our town and destroyed everything. That's why we came to Ouagadougou. But we have many difficulties here. There we grew food and we ate enough, but here we can't grow food. We have to buy everything and prices are increasing. Food prices are increasing. We don't have enough money. When you're many, you have to do your best so that everyone eats. It is not important if it's not tasty or if you aren't full. This caused some to get sick. The baby is not breastfed enough and got sick. She's malnourished. That's why we came here for health care.
In January, mutinous soldiers ousted Burkina Faso's democratically elected president, saying restoring security in the country was the top priority. However, attacks have since increased, with an 11% rise in incidents in February. That's according to the United Nations. Aid organizations are now bracing for more price hikes because of the war in Ukraine. The United Nations says Burkina Faso buys more than a third of its wheat from Russia, and while the impact is not yet visible, humanitarians say it is a concern. Heidi Adams, VOA News.
Russia's invasion of Ukraine, one of the world's largest exporters of wheat, is leading to bread prices soaring in importing countries like Zimbabwe. The Grain Millers Association of Zimbabwe warns of possible bread shortages after Ukraine was forced to suspend shipping. Columbus Mavunga reports from Harare.
Christine Kayumba is one of many citizens feeling the pinch of rising prices in Zimbabwe. She can't afford to buy bread for her 4 dependents on her salary of less than $250 a month because a loaf now costs more than $2. She says she cooks a bland, thin porridge 3 times a day and rarely serves rice, as it is now expensive too.
This price increase of bread has reduced me to nothing, my brother. I don't think I'm still the mother figure, the breadwinner for my family, because I'm failing to provide. Each and every morning they wake up crying for porridge, they wake up crying for bread.
The Grain Millers Association of Zimbabwe, which imports grain, blames the Russia-Ukraine conflict for the steep climb in prices. The two countries account for 65% of Zimbabwe's wheat imports.
And suddenly we woke up with the world without that supply levels. Now we are making efforts to see how best we can get from other countries. Australia, there's issue of floods which affected the agriculture. We are now pushing towards getting wheat from Canada and other countries.
Musarara says a consignment of Zimbabwe's wheat has been stuck in the embattled Ukrainian city of Mariupol for weeks now. Zimbabwe Agricultural Society is a group responsible for promoting agricultural development in the country. It sees some opportunity in the current wheat shortages the country is facing.
And I think this is an opportune time for our farmers to produce more, for the government and the private sector to work together hand in hand to support farmers who want to go into wheat production. And thank God we've been having some late rainfalls, which have also helped in land preparations.
That would certainly be good news for people like Kayumba, who cannot buy bread now because it's too expensive. Many of the country's farm fields are currently full of corn. Matibiri said if the shift to wheat production succeeds, Zimbabwe can export wheat to the region and get some much needed foreign currency. Columbus Mavunga for VOA News, Harare, Zimbabwe.
Global cooking oil prices have been rising since the COVID-19 pandemic began for multiple reasons, from poor harvests in South America to virus-related labor shortages and an increasing demand from the biofuel industry. The war in Ukraine has interrupted shipments and sent cooking oil prices skyrocketing. It is the latest fallout to hit the global food supply from the Russia-Ukraine conflict. The food supply is particularly at risk as the war has disrupted critical grain shipments from Ukraine and Russia. The loss of affordable supplies of wheat, barley and other grain raises the prospect of food shortages across Africa. The World Health Organization says a second Ebola patient has died in northwestern Democratic Republic of Congo just days into a new outbreak of the deadly disease. Genetic testing showed an infection confirmed last week in the city of Bandaka was a new spillover event, a transmission from an infected animal, and was not linked to any previous outbreaks, according to the National Institute of Biomedical Research. The WHO revealed on Twitter the second fatality was a 25-year-old woman whose sister-in-law was the first case. Congo has seen 13 previous outbreaks of Ebola. The number of confirmed COVID-19 cases worldwide has surpassed 507 million, with over 6.22 million deaths, according to World Health Organization data. The United States remains the nation worst hit by the pandemic in terms of confirmed cases and related deaths. The U.S. is reporting over 81 million infections, with the death toll exceeding 991,000 as of Monday, according to Johns Hopkins University. It's time for our health report, and joining us now is Africa 54 health correspondent Lino Mudu. Hello, Lino.
Hello, Esther. Hello, everyone. Well, today researchers are using an evolving monitoring system to track signs of coronavirus in sewage, which they say could potentially capture brewing infections. Take a look. The stinky stuff that dwells underneath the Michigan State University campus is no longer just simply waste. It has become a public health tool. Colleges across the U.S. that are grappling with the coronavirus are testing sewage for the presence of genetic material from the virus.
It's being used on campus as early warning and communication. So to let the students know that in their dorm, there's virus excretion, even if they don't have cases.
Experts say it can be an inexpensive way to monitor people who may not even know they are sick yet.
So to be able to detect an asymptomatic or prior to clinical test positive individual, right, through the sewage surveillance program, is important to avoid major events or major health crisis issues in that facility or building or a dorm, etc.
The Troy, Michigan-based company partnered with Oakland University to set up a laboratory at the school to test wastewater samples for the presence of the virus. Researchers say the results can't yet reliably show how many infected people live in a community, but they can indicate if that number is rising or falling. And that indication can arrive days before such trends show up by standard testing or hospitalizations. Candice Miller is the Public Works Commissioner in Macomb County, Michigan.
I mean, after all, we're all biological beings. Really, it's not much different than a blood test. When you go to the bathroom, you're shedding virus. And you could be asymptomatic, but yet you continue to shed the virus.
Miller and other officials hope the lessons learned from the sewage testing efforts for COVID-19 can be applied to future health concerns.
The World Health Organization reports that about 24 million people were infected with malaria in 2020. 95% of the cases were in Africa, and most victims were children under 5. More than 80% of Zambians are at risk of malaria. Partners for a Malaria-Free Zambia program, a Rotary Club-led initiative in partnership with World Vision and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, has an ambitious goal of reducing the incidence of malaria by 90% in 10 target districts in the Central and Muchinga provinces in Zambia. Martha Lungu is Executive Director of Malaria Partners in Zambia. She elaborates on the impact of malaria in Zambia and the progress and aspirations of the program.
For Rotary, through Malaria Partners Zambia and other partners, we're supporting the implementation of the training of community health workers. These are volunteers within their communities. And what we currently do is we help Ministry of Health to train these community health workers in integrated community case management. The most affected are actually the pregnant women and the children under the age of 5. Personally, I've had malaria several times, and unfortunately, I lost my son in 2020 to malaria. That was the most painful time in my life. It was very devastating. Being an advocate for this global eradication of malaria and it hitting me in such a manner, I wouldn't wish it upon anyone. I feel the need now to put in more effort in this fight against malaria, because I really don't wish for any mother losing a child because of malaria, a disease that we can prevent and treat. We don't really need to take this disease casually, and I seem to think that maybe that's what happened with my son, because for it to get to severity is only because there is delay in treatment. It actually would take a lot of partners coming on board, and a lot of interventions, and a lot of financing. We spend more than $1,000 to just train and equip one community health worker. We are talking about training 36,000. So it's a lot of money required. They say together we can end malaria, meaning we need more hands, we need more efforts, more resources. I think maybe it's time we started considering other interventions, other new ideas. What I would really want to voice out now, maybe especially to our government, is that they need to ensure that the medications and test kits are readily available. It seems to be a waste of resource to train community health workers when the medications, the test kits are not given to them. I hope for a Zambia that is free of malaria. I look up that one day my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren will wake up and just hear of malaria as a story of the past.
And that's our health report for today. To stay in touch, find me on Twitter @LenorMoudou. Back to you, Esther.
Thanks, Lino. Be sure to watch Lino Moudou's health reports every Tuesday on Africa 54. Still to come, Elon Musk strikes a multi-billion-dollar deal to buy Twitter. We'll be right back. In a power move, Tesla chief executive Elon Musk buys the social media giant Twitter in a deal that will lead to the end of the social media platforms run as a public company. Paul Ndiho has more.
Social media users and analysts are wondering how Elon Musk will run Twitter after Monday's agreement to buy the company for roughly $44 billion. Musk, the world's wealthiest person, says he wanted to buy and privatize Twitter because he believed it was not living up to its potential as a free speech platform. Musk, an active Twitter user with more than 83 million followers, says Twitter needs to be private to grow and become an open platform for free speech.
There will clearly be changes from a constriction in what people could say, and that's going to be a tight wire act, especially in this environment. But ultimately, taking private is going to have a lot of changes for Twitter. But Musk just bet 20% of his net worth on Twitter. It's not just about freedom of speech.
Twitter's board had adopted a so-called poison pill to resist Musk's takeover, but changed course after Musk unveiled a financing package which included $33 billion from his own fortune. Critics of Musk say that the self-described free speech absolutist does not take criticism well.
He actually silenced some of his critics when it comes to people talking about Tesla. And he cannot take it when somebody, attack a certain product. And so it's going to be that's going to be the tough point for him to say that it's going to be free speech. Free speech for you is hate speech for somebody else. Free speech for you is, a violation for, the laws and the policies of this country.
It also raised questions about whether he might reinstate a former U.S. President Donald Trump's account as he weighs another run for the White House in 2024.
So no matter how many platforms have come before and say we're going to be the free speech platform, they all moderate content. They all, even if they don't want to, they find that they have to. It's just it's just not possible to have a site where they allow everything that users submit to be published.
Republican accounts on Twitter celebrated as Elon Musk clinched a deal to buy Twitter, a transaction that may shift control of the social media platform populated by millions of users and global leaders.
He doesn't believe in the permanent blocking of people or kicking them out of the platform. And that's opened the door for all the speculation about all the people being banned, the past few years. And at the top of them is President, the former President Trump.
The House GOP account tweeted to the new owner saying, "Hey, Elon Musk, it's a great week to free real Donald Trump." Not all were happy with the deal. Democratic Senator Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts warned the public, calling the agreement dangerous for our democracy. Billionaires like Elon Musk play by a different set of rules than everyone else.
The president has long been concerned about the power of large social media platforms, that power they have over our everyday lives, has long argued that tech platforms must be held accountable for the harms they cause. He has been a strong supporter of fundamental reforms to achieve that goal.
Twitter shares rose 5.7% on Monday to close at $51.70. The deal represents a near 40% premium to the closing price the day before Musk disclosed he had bought a more than 9% stake in the company. Paul Ndiho, VOA News.
The theme of 2022 World Press Freedom Day is Journalism Under Digital Siege, which examines challenges faced by media organizations worldwide and identifies solutions without compromising the editorial integrity and independence of the media. According to the World Press Freedom Index, Eritrea ranks last in global media freedom. VOA Tigrinya reporter Abraham Bere explains.
For the last 10 years in a row, from 2007 to 2017, Eritrea has been the last country in Press Freedom Index in RSF's annual survey. And twice in 2015 and 2019, it has been named the most censored country on earth by CPJ, by the Committee to Protect Journalists, and it has been the worst jailer of journalists in Sub-Saharan Africa by CPJ, behind 16 bars. For now, there are 16 journalists behind bars. Most of them have been in prison since 2001. And since 2001, since the ban of the free press, reporting of the country has been very difficult. Like most inaccessible country for international media. There's only one state media run by the government, and international journalists cannot access the country. And there's internet, the least connected country also on Earth. So it becomes difficult to live for information to come out of the country and then to enter the country because it's a disconnected country, basically. And for this reason, it just becomes very difficult to cover countries like Eritrea because officials are not usually ready for interview. They don't provide updates about any developments. And it just becomes difficult to even confirm for very basic information about the country. So what we depend on usually is either press release of the country or tweets by state officials, or sometimes we also fill the gap by kind of interviewing officials or not officials, but those who kind of fall in line with the government line, who live in the diaspora, or are able to, willing to speak to us.
VOA Tigrinya reporter Abraham Bere with that report. U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin says that Russian President Vladimir Putin never imagined the whole world would rally behind Ukraine so swiftly and surely. Secretary Lloyd made the comment Tuesday as the U.S. convened a meeting at Ramstein Air Base in Germany aimed to help Ukraine to win the fight against what he says is Russia's unjust invasion. Meanwhile, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov warns that the conflict could erupt into World War III, saying that NATO is engaged in a war with Russia through a proxy. Russian missiles hit targets aimed at disrupting weapons supplies to Ukraine's forces in the east. Firefighters tackled a blaze at a railway substation in the southwestern Ukrainian town of Krasan on Monday. Video shows black smoke billowing into the air as fire teams used ladders and foam to fight the blaze. Russia's defense ministry says its missiles destroyed 6 facilities powering the railways that are used to deliver foreign weapons to Ukrainian forces in Donbass. At a Tuesday meeting with Sergei Lavrov in Moscow, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said that while Russia and the UN have different interpretations of the conflict in Ukraine, there is still the possibility for a serious conversation about working to minimize suffering and end the war as soon as possible. Anne Applebaum is a staff writer for The Atlantic and Pulitzer Prize-winning historian. She spoke to VOA's Tatiana Vorosko of VOA Ukrainian Service about what the people of Ukraine think of the aid they are getting from the West.
From the American point of view, this is totally unprecedented. You know, Ukrainians should know that there has been no comparable American effort to help a foreign country that anyone I've talked to can remember since the Berlin airlift, you know, which we're talking about the 1940s, when the U.S. created this airlift to when West Berlin was cut off by the Soviet Union, by Soviet troops. And that's the last time anything on this kind of scale was attempted. Maybe land lease during World War II. We also helped the British before America entered the war. But there is nothing in modern history like this. So it's all completely unprecedented. New ways of doing things are being worked out. New ways of getting stuff into Ukraine are being invented every day. You know, there's a lot of creativity involved in how to get stuff to Poland and then over the border and then into the battlefield. And so, I understand that from the Ukrainian point of view, it feels too slow and too unserious, and it's never enough. From the American point of view, we've never done anything like this before. Nobody who's working in government now was working during the Berlin airlift. So for everybody, it's new. So I think both things can be true. You know, on the one hand, it's not enough. You know, on the other hand, it's more than America's ever done. And so, what I'm hoping is that in the next few days and weeks, the coordination becomes smoother and the help becomes more regular.
That was Anne Applebaum, a staff writer for The Atlantic and a Pulitzer Prize-winning historian, speaking to VOA's Tatiana Vorosko. During Ramadan, communal iftars or breaking of fasts for Muslims in mosques are the norm in the United States, but since the coronavirus pandemic began, drive-through food distributions have become popular. VOA's Faiza Bukhari takes us behind the scenes at one of Virginia's Islamic centers.
Dar an-Nur Islamic Community Center in Manassas, Virginia, hosts a daily drive-through iftar for about 800 fasting Muslims. Preparing meals for that many hungry worshippers demands the participation of a group of volunteers who dedicate their time and energy to assisting those in need.
We work as volunteers for the whole month of Ramadan while maintaining our full-time jobs. This is our third year here.
Each day's menu is different.
Some days we have biryani, some days chickpeas, samosas, fritters, or chicken curry. One person is providing raw chicken for the whole month. Others have donated spices, rice, and chickpeas.
Local school students volunteer to assist with boxing the meals once they are prepared. Student volunteers say that helping not only earns them academic credits, but it also brings them joy.
We have this opportunity to volunteer at this masjid to get our service hours up so we can, and hope to graduate. But in return, we're also doing this from the greatness of our hearts.
You can get more blessings in doing it. And I got to know because I live close by and I usually come to pray here.
The feeling that you get when you make someone's day is amazing.
Breaking fast together during Ramadan, according to other volunteers, is the traditional approach.
Sharing food and eating together is an Islamic way.
Organizers of the drive-through iftar say pandemic has been the reason for distributing food like this.
When the pandemic started, we used to deliver food at people's houses, but not anymore, because now the demand for drive-through has increased. But if a disabled person contacts us that they need food but don't have a ride, we will accommodate them.
Hundreds of Muslims from all walks of life receive iftar meals every day at this Islamic center, which is sponsored by public donations and sponsors. Faiza Bukhari, VOA News, Manassas, Virginia.
And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our new Facebook page, facebook.com/VOA Africa. From all of us here in Washington, thanks for watching.